All right, shalom, and welcome to another show of GMS Levy Packers. Giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, no matter what channel it's on. You give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai because he's the one that allows us to have this spirit on us to teach this word, and I'm forever grateful. I don't want to sound phony, but I'm grateful for the gifts I've been given in this truth. Secondly, I would like to give double honors to the apostles of GMS, the elders, who gave us the tools to teach this word, and also honor and salutations to you other brothers that are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. All right, so today's topic is going to be entitled The Year of the Scoffer. And when I say year, I'm not talking about like a calendar year. I mean like the time we're in is a perfect time for there to be scoffers on the earth. Okay, it's no better time than now for there to be scoffers on this earth, and it was prophesied that it was going to happen. It was prophesied that you would have this many people coming up against those who were the elect, the men of the Lord. Matter of fact, to get started, we'll start there. We'll start with put the chapter and verse. Bear with me for a minute. I haven't used a screen recorder in a while, so bear with me for a minute. It's running kind of slow. So the scripture is going to be 2 Peter's 3:3. Okay, it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts. So the fact that there's this many people coming up against the men of the Lord just further proves that we're in the last days. We're on the home stretch, so to speak. There being this many scoffers is a part of prophecy as well. It's just like the nuclear missiles hitting here, just like the RFID chip coming to America. All those things, along with these scoffers, are a part of prophecy, and it just further proves that we're in the last days. So I wanted to do this show, and basically what it's going to be is to prove that this scoffing against the elders, the men that we call the elders, this disrespect of younger men to older men that should be revered, this dishonor, this disrespect, this disloyalty is something that our spirits picked up here in this place, this captivity, this place that we call America. That spirit was something that we picked up here, because and when you look around the world and other cultures, they hold their elders in high regard. They have reverence for their elders. They treat their elders with the respect that is due. So I got two articles that I want to go into, and hopefully the Spirit will have me go into both articles. But I got this article I want to go into, and it touches on how other cultures, mainly cultures that follow what they call Confucianism, which is people that follow the philosopher Confucius. So those people that follow Confucius, they have this I guess saying, for lack of a better term, called filial piety, which is basically, to put it in layman's terms, is the honor of a son to his parents, or the duty of a son to his parents, or to his elderly. So I'm going to go into these articles, and Lord willing, I'll bring some scriptures out too. I got a list of different things here that I want to go through. So I just want to show that this is something that was picked up here in this society. So since I said that, I want to go somewhere first. So this is Micah 2:10. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction." So, excuse me, because this place is polluted, we've picked up a lot of bad habits here. The conditioning from TV, the conditioning from music, the conditioning from movies, or any source of media has changed the way of thinking. So now, anytime you have one of the elders, they might come down hard on somebody. Oh, you know, he said this about me, and that's a mentality that was picked up here in this country, where they want you to feel like everybody's a winner, everybody should feel good. Like, you got these kids nowadays, they join these basketball leagues, and even when I was a young kid, everybody gets a trophy. So this society, this world that we live in, this country that we live in, this slavery that we are in, harps on how good you feel. Things should make you feel good. You should be happy. You should feel pleasure, and they don't give you the other side of it. So when you do get the other side of it, when you do get the rebuke from an elder or from one of the men of the Lord, you get emotional about it, because they're not trying to make you feel good. And then in turn, your emotions then bring you off into the deep end, where you're trying to go justify what your position is, like this guy Alazar did, or this guy Izar, or whoever might have gone off and shown this lack of respect for these men who have put in massive amounts of work. Even still to this day, they put in work. So again, as I was saying before, that this is something that was picked up here in this country, and I want to show you that other cultures have reverence for their elders. Okay, so this is an article from Advanta Home Care, I guess is the website, and it's entitled "East versus West: How We Treat Our Elderly." All right, it says, when people grow old in many parts of the world, family and friends care for them at home until the end. In America, the elderly are more typically sent to an assisted living or skilled nursing facility, a contrast that might appear selfish, uncaring, and even callous. It's easy to make harsh comparisons between the East and West when it comes to the issue of elderly care. Values of Western cultures tend to celebrate youth, self-reliance, and individualism, which is if you go into I'm gonna use Alazar for an example, because he's the most recent. His whole spirit, as you can see, time wearing on, was about being an individual, and that's what Gorilla is about. You being by yourself and not being a part of the group. You kind of an outcast. You're doing your own thing. Well, that's something that you were taught here in this country. It says it here. Now this is not to prove it, but this is just somebody's opinion that's harping on it. But I happen to agree with the opinion. It says here, values of Western cultures, such as America, tend to celebrate youth, self-reliance, and individualism. And that's what that dude, Gorilla Hebrew, was all about. He was trying to be a part of the group, but at the same time doing his own thing. And you're never going to find an example in the truth where somebody wanted to be, or I'm sorry, in the scriptures, where somebody wanted to be off away from what was being done. The perfect way to show you how we should be going about pushing the truth is if you read the book of Acts. You're not gonna, because in this time, it's like we're reliving the book of Acts, where you got all these different churches throughout the world, mainly here in the United States, but there's churches all over the world that is teaching this truth. And it was the same way when you had those men in the book of Acts. And you're never going to find an example in that book of men being outcasts, or I can't think of the word, not outcast, but rogue, maybe. I'm not sure if that's the word I'm looking for, but and for lack of a better term, somebody that wants to do their own thing. You still want to be a part of the truth, but you're trying to do your own thing. You're not going to find that kind of example. That individualism is something that was picked up here, because if you read in the book of 1 Corinthians, I want to say the 12th chapter, it talks about us being one body. We're all one body. The pinky, though it's a small member, It's a part of, it has a big job in the large scheme of things. The same thing as a toe. It may be a small member, but it has a big job in the scheme of things, and it all works together. We all got to be in the same spirit. So you're not going to find that example of individualism in the scriptures. Okay, so continuing on, it says, Eastern cultures place an enormous value on family and the elderly, often adhering to traditional age hierarchies. A traditional Asian household is far more likely to include a grandparent, whereas nursing homes in the United States, Australia, and many parts of the West are increasingly overcrowded. Okay, so it says, the Confucian doctrine of filial piety continues to have a strong presence in Chinese and Asian culture. So I want to look up that word filial piety that you see here. So I'm going to go here, go to the onlineetymology.com. Okay. So you have, I'll look up one word at a time. So you have filial here. Oh, I'm spelling it wrong. So log in. Okay. So it says here for filial. I hope I'm saying this right. If not, I'll go to another dictionary. It kind of gives you the pronunciation. But it says here, late 14th century, from late Latin, filialis, of a son or daughter, from Latin filius, which is son, and filia, which is daughter, possibly from a suffixed form of PIE root. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Huey, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which means to be, exist, or grow. All right, to suck or suckle, like a child. A child sucks or suckles his mother's breast, right? So basically, the word means son or daughter. Okay, so let's look up the word piety. Okay, so piety, excuse me. Early 14th century, late 12th century, as a surname, means mercy, tenderness, pity. From Old French, piety, faith, pity, compassion. From Latin, pietatem, nominative pietas, dutiful conduct, sense of duty, religiousness, piety, loyalty, patriotism, faithfulness, and natural ties. So they carry on this what they call filial piety, which is basically being loyal, a child or a son being loyal to his elders. And that's what a lot of these people don't have, because they've picked up the American way of life, which is do your own thing. And if it doesn't feel good, then it ain't right. Whereas in order for you to grow as a person, you got to go through rebuke, man. You have to get rebuked in order to grow in anything, even outside the truth. If you a person that's not in the truth, even in the world, the Heavenly Father didn't remove those principles. You still have to have a balance, which is good, and what would be considered bad, which is the rebuke, good feelings and bad feelings, in order for you to grow in whatever you do. When you're a bodybuilder, you lift weights, you have to go through physical pain. You're beating up your body in order for your muscles to grow. When you're trying to become a teacher, you got to put your mind through mental pain so that your mind can grow, that your thoughts can grow. So it's that principle. It's consistent no matter what you do in life. You have to have both. And when these people, when they get rebuked, they lose their filial piety. They no longer have loyalty or patriotism, as it says here on the screen, to the elders. Now they're hurt. They're sad. So now they can't even function in what it is they do, and they just got to defend themselves. They're sitting there at the, all proud and mighty, and it don't go like that, man. Whenever you getting rebuked, you got to stop right away and ask yourself, what are you doing? Because these elders know what they're talking about, man. You'll never find any profession. We consider this truth our profession. And never will you see any profession where there's a man that's been doing something for 20 plus years that doesn't know what he's doing in that profession. You're never going to see it from sports to comedy. If you're a comedian, to being an electrician, you're never going to see in any profession a man that's been doing something for 20 plus years, where somebody who's been doing it for 5 years can come in and tell that person how to do it. Yeah, they might have some subtle differences where some people might say, hey, I like how you did that better than how he did it. But that don't make you greater than that man. You have to build up experience. So you still have to hold that elder. You have to hold him in high regard, and you still have to have reverence for him. So going back to this article, it says here, the Confucian doctrine of filial piety continues to have a strong presence in Chinese and Asian culture. It simply means showing obedience, respect, and deference to your elders. It's considered a privilege to be in the enlightened company of an elder, and ancestral reverence remains vitally important today. In these and other cultures, it is considered utterly shameful not to take care of your aging parents. The same goes for Mediterranean cultures, where multi-generational families live together in the same house. In stark contrast, Western culture encourages families to strike a balance between allegiance to the elderly and individual freedom. I'm going to read that again. In stark contrast, Western cultures encourages families to strike a balance between allegiance to the elderly and individual freedom. So they kind of harp on the fact that, yeah, okay, respect your elders, but, you know, do your own thing, right? So it says, quite often, the pursuit of individual freedom assumes priority, resulting in a meltdown of harmony and any reasonable sense of family dependence and unity. So when you live here for too long, when you've been in this place for too long, you lose. I want to read that part again. It says, in stark contrast, Western culture encourages families to strike a balance between allegiance to the elderly and individual freedom. Quite often, the pursuit of individual freedom assumes priority. And that's what that dude, Al-Azhar's problem was. He was trying to assume his individual priority. I'm this, and I was wronged in this way. When you got to take into consideration what the Spirit is saying to you, man. You have to take it into consideration. I've been rebuked before. I can speak and say Adama's been rebuked before. Every brother has to go through it. How do you expect to grow? All right, but that doesn't mean that the elders are no longer supposed to be reverenced. You still got to reverence them, man, because they've been putting in work. Excuse me. So it says here, resulting in a meltdown of harmony and any reasonable sense of family dependence and unity. Routinely, seniors do not live with their children, and it's often considered a big hassle to take care of your parents, even if you really want to do so. According to UCLA professor Jared Diamond, Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Guns, Germs, and Steel, The Fates of Human Societies, and recipient of a MacArthur Foundation Genius Award, the idea that is human nature for parents to make sacrifices for their children and in turn for their grown children to sacrifice for their aging parents turns out to be a naive expectation. This assumption, he said, ignores undeniable conflicts of interest between generations. From a common sense perspective, parents and children both want a comfortable life. There are limits to the sacrifices that they'll make for each other. So it says, yet the fact remains, Diamond said, that many societies treat their elderly better than Americans do. In some cultures, he said, children are so devoted that when their aging parents lose their teeth and the children will pre-chew their food. A closer look at how traditional societies value or don't value their old people might teach us what to emulate and what to avoid. While modernization has brought many efforts to the elderly, most notably improved health and longer lifespans, it has also led to a breakdown of traditions. For example, multi-generational families are becoming a thing of the past in many modern cities in China, Japan, and India, Diamond said, where today's young people want privacy, want to go off and have a home of their own. In America, Diamond said, a cult of youth and emphasis on the virtues of independence, individualism, and self-reliance also make life hard on older people as they inevitably lose some of their traits. Then there's America's Protestant work ethic, which holds that if you're no longer working, you've lost the main value that society places on you. Retirement also means losing social relationships, which, coupled with America's high mobility, leaves many old people hundreds or even thousands of miles away from longtime friends and family. So, what happens here in this country? I don't want to say we, but it's harped on to be an individual, and everybody holds youth in high regard. When you're young, you're special. They have commercials about finding the fountain of youth. They have all these commercials for women to remove the wrinkles from around their eyes. But if you're in your right mind, you'll know that it's an honor to live a long life, man, because that's how you gain wisdom from the different experiences that you go through in your life. That's the only way you can gain wisdom, is if you go through something and you experience it. All right. So I wanted to give a scriptural example here. This is so you had a man in Paul whom had right to boast himself to be a great man. He knew many different tongues. He knew the law. He had many resources in this truth. And if any man had somewhat to brag about, it would be him. But he still went to his elders, the men that were in this word, involved in the spirit and faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua before he was. He still reverenced them as elders and went to them for advice. So I want to read this. It says, this is Acts 15:1. It says, and certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem and unto the apostles and elders about this question. So even Paul, being a wise man, being that he had so many resources in the truth, the Lord Yahushua taught him directly. He still went unto the elders to get his learning. But we've lost that, man. That's a part of Israelite culture, is respect for the elders. That's a part of Israelite culture. That's not something that we can push aside and say, oh, we don't need that part. That's a part of our culture, is to respect the elders, the men that have been on this earth longer than you, man. And not only on this earth longer than you, but in this truth longer than you. You have to reverence them. And all in all, that's where that scoffing spirit comes from. You got a bunch of babies, a bunch of little brats running around. I want a trophy too. I played. I want a trophy too. And they want to be praised. They want to be looked at. They want to be seen. And you forget that the Lord is doing something, man. There's an order to this thing. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about any of us. There's an order to this thing. The elders are who they are because the Lord set it up that way. It don't have nothing to do with those men. It don't have nothing to do with the men underneath them, holding them on the pedestal. The Lord is doing this. The Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is the one that set forth this order, and we're to follow it. And when you don't follow it, you can see it. You can see it. You can see the outcome. Look at all these videos. When you see the elders make a video and they put them different, I forget what name of that video that I just watched recently. It was a video where they put up all these faces of men that have fallen out of the truth, and it's what happens. And it was always the men that had a problem with authority, had a problem with being rebuked. What's wrong with you people? You want to go through life and not have nobody say nothing to you? That's not the right spirit to be in, man. So I just wanted to hit that article. I mean, I think the point was made. I don't think I need to hit the other article. The other article is from Huffington Post, which was based on filial piety too. But it had a couple of different cultures. It shows how they reverence their elders, and what did I have here? Japanese culture and Roman culture. They still hold their elders in high regard. And if you you can look around how the the Greeks of the day, how they hold their elders. Even Ephraim, and if some of the Judites like Cape Verdeans, like those ethnic tribes, the Latin tribes, they still hold their elders in high regard. That's a habit that gets picked up over here, man. And you can see it. Like I grew up with a lot of Cape Verdeans, and a lot they hold their elders in high regard until they get here, and they pick up the bad habits from the kids and TV and the different things that you have here. They pick up those bad habits. But I just wanted to show that it's just that scoffer spirit is deeply rooted in a lack of respect for men that's above you, man. There's an order to this thing, and you can't fight it. And the Lord shows you every year that you can't fight the spirit of order. You can't fight the spirit in anything. It's not up to you. So with that, I hope the point was made. I hope brothers was edified. It's been a long time coming. I should have did this show. We did a show earlier too about that. So you're gonna start seeing more shows, Lord willing, from the Boston camp. Yeah, like I said, I hope the point was made, and I hope brothers was edified as always, because that's the most important part. And until the next one, I'm gonna go ahead and say shalom.